Good afternoon, everyone. This is episode 3 of the Weekly Pill. Today, I'm honored to have an amazing guest who spent his entire life as a warrior and now supporting warriors outside of uniform. Today's guest is Dusty Baxley. He's a retired U.S. Army Ranger. He served as part of the 82nd Airborne's Combat Parachute Assault in Panama during Operation Just Cause, and with the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment for Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Dusty now was appointed Boulder Crest Retreats Virginia Executive Director in July 2015, following considerable involvement as a mentor, teacher, and a guide in a number of combat stress recovery path retreats. Since retiring, Dusty has dedicated his life, passion, and abilities to bringing relief, healing, and hope for our nation's warriors. He helps support the post-traumatic stress that a lot of us may have, and he works to help support post-traumatic growth, which is a term that his organization uses very much. So let's all welcome Dusty to the show. Dusty, how you doing, sir?
Very well, sir. Thank you, Jake, for having me. I appreciate it. Very honored to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about, what you came from and where you found your purpose as a young soldier, but also what pushed you throughout your career to do the things you're doing now.
Well, I don't think I want to take it all the way back, as old as I am, to the good old days. But let's just say that many of us that enter the military do so for not just altruism or, freedom and integrity and patriotism. Many of us enter the military because we need help. We come from childhoods not so favorable, and it represents structure, it represents safety, training, and family. And so for me, I needed the military, and it gave me just exactly that. It gave me direction, it gave me purpose, gave me a reason for reason. And I was enamored with someone that would pay me to jump out of perfectly good airplanes and enjoy my life. So I spent my time in the military. The military grew. Too many, I guess, deployments and training exercises, and the last one being Desert Shield Storm, and no wife, no kids. Infidelity had crept into the marriage, and so I was pretty brokenhearted. I signed out, like many of us do, on terminal leave about midnight, and skated away from the military, went to Australia for 15 years. Was successful in sports nutrition and fitness equipment. And during that time, a lot of these symptoms that they talk about, DSM-5 with PTS, seemed to inhabit my life. And I was very disconnected. And it's never one thing, but many things piled up on me. And the self-talk and the disgust of who I'd become overwhelmed me. And I gave up my life for the second time, and I came home in January 2009 and attempted suicide, trying to find my way away from the pain and the shame of everything that I'd done in my life. And so along that journey, I picked up a self-regulation practice, was able to clear some of the fog out of my head. I got talked into getting on social media. I went into a unit reunion at Fort Bragg during All-American Week. And I thought I was the only special little snowflake that was, struggling in his life. And I come to find out that quite a few of my brothers had struggled. And at the reunion, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when we're doing the 16-ounce curls and, talking trash and, reflecting on old times, one of the things that came to light was quite a few guys were living out of their cars, being divorced, lost their jobs. We'd lost guys to single vehicle accidents, death by police, suicide, drug overdose. There was an undercurrent of despair and disconnect. And a couple of my buddies, Rick Brody from Delta and Trey Hand from Guantanamo, and a couple of guys said, "Dust, you should stand up and tell everyone what you found, and maybe it'll help." So, I'm very reluctant to stand up and share that I'd learned to meditate and connect with myself again and learn some self-regulation practices, figuring I'd get a beer bottle or two bounced off my head. And much to my surprise, everybody was very quiet. and they asked me to help. And so I drove from Fort Bragg all the way back down to Florida. And I can honestly share with you, Jake, that I think I cried all 14 odd hours of that drive. Threw up for a while. I lost family. I lost brothers that, meant everything to me. And so I remember standing in my shower with a big bourbon in my hand, looking at a lady I was now engaged to, and said, I'm going to be a meditation teacher. I'm going to teach TM, and I'm going to help my brothers and sisters. And I didn't think she'd stop laughing. But I was also the first military guy she'd ever met. And I said, you have no idea. I'm an airborne ranger. And once I arrived in an operations order in my head and began backwards planning, this will happen. And so that's exactly what happened. I went away for 7 months, became certified, got back, got involved, stood up a program for TM for veterans, became the national director for David Lynch Foundation out of Manhattan, started standing up programs, working in and out of TBI clinics, PTSD clinics, worked out of Eisenhower for about 4.5 years, a couple of papers published off my work. And then I found myself teaching in a program, and it got invited by Ken Falk to a place that had just stood up called Boulder Crest Foundation in Bluemont, Virginia. And Ken Falk, 21.5-year bomb tech, last 10 years spent with the SEAL teams, had retired, stood up a company called AT, Anti-Terrorist Solutions, and become very successful government contracting, and then he sold that. And then there came a time that we're all very well aware of when we went from mounted patrols to dismounted patrols, and IEDs became a thing in our lives. And so Ken's company was training around 45,000 people a year to combat IEDs around the world. That's what his company did. And there came a time in his own life after he sold that company that in the EOD world, there were around, I want to say, it was either 51 or 71 bomb techs in a period of around 12 months that became amputees. It was horrific. Literally a EOD guy arriving at Walter Reed on a weekly basis. I think it was the military's first quadruple amputee. And to date now, EOD has had more suicides than they have had lost downrange. I think they've lost around 136 to 138 men in EOD. And so Ken stood up Boulder Crest Foundation and this beautiful 37.5 acres, $11 million facility just for rest and reconnection so that we could come and be with our families and we could rest and we could do as much as or as little as we wanted on this beautiful 37.5 acres just to be with our families. And also for the families to be with their loved ones who were having long-term care at Walter Reed. And then along the way, Ken began to hear about PTSD. And so on his own nickel, he traveled this country went to every expert he could find on PTSD to see what was being done, because 22 a day was just unacceptable. And the stats don't seem to change. And what he found was a resounding, we don't know what we're doing. And all we have to work with are the approved modalities by Congress. And Ken's response was, well, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. And they said, that's all we have to work with. And then in August of 2015, the Journal of the American Medical Association, one of the most revered publications in the world, published an article that said, what we are doing for PTS is not working. And we need a new and innovative approach. So we accepted that approach. We accepted that challenge, by the way, and decided to find a new approach. And so we began standing up a program. And the program initially was Progressive and Alternative Therapies for Healing Heroes. And we were working with a number of therapists. And over time, developing the program, all the combat veterans developing in the program realized that the modalities really weren't sticking. They really weren't holding. They weren't giving us what we needed. And then along that investigation, we developed a program, starting to get some really good results. Like a lot of programs, we would survey you in, survey you out, and you're doing great. You're off the DSM-5, you're dropping off the PCML list, and not showing much signs of PTSD. So we had a really good catch and release program, which a lot of programs do, right? You still have to go back to your life, and you still have to manage your life. And so we wanted to do better. And so we started inviting some of the experts around the country to look at our program that we had developed here, Jake. And as we did so, one of those was a guy by the name of Dr. Brett Moore, 27-year Army psychologist who had set up triage downrange in Iraq and Afghanistan for mental health. He saw 2 days of the program. He went back and wrote a journal entry that what he saw in the Warrior Path program in 2 days is what it took mental health 12 to 14 months to accomplish.
Wow.
Well, it was stunning. Yeah, exactly. We're like, uh-oh, you're kidding us. So then we invited another doctor, Dr. Rich Tedeschi out of UNC Charlotte. He saw a different 2 days of the program. He went back and wrote the same journal entry. Again, we were stunned. So we put these two men together, asked them to have a look at our program. At the end of it, Dr. Tedeschi asked us what we knew about the science of post-traumatic growth. We're a bunch of combat veteran knuckle draggers. We're like, sorry, sir? He's like, you have no idea that you've actually developed and you have implemented and you are teaching post-traumatic growth. How did you do this? We're like, teach us. So Dr. Tedeschi shared with us this beautiful study that he and Lawrence Calhoun did, and they published back in 1995. It was a decades-old study when he and Lawrence Calhoun went to their professor at UNC Charlotte seeking tenure. And Dr. Tedeschi was interested in what makes people wise. His professor said, that's really good, but I'm going to have you go sit in grief counseling. I want you to sit with families that have lost their children to cancers and to accidents and to just things that happen in people's lives. I want you to sit with adults that had onset of disabilities that severely ruined their lives or came up with or had diseases that severely handicapped their lives. I want you to find out something about these people. So for decades, he and Lawrence Calhoun sat with these people in these counseling sessions and just listened. And what they found and coined the phrase was post-traumatic growth. He talked to families that had, as an example, lost their young boy to cancer, and they had watched him die in front of them. And he loved to play baseball. And so they had to drive their little son 3 to 4 suburbs away to participate in baseball. And then after he passed away, they formed a foundation. They built a little league diamond, and they formed a little league, little league field, if you will, and association, and they named it after their son. And what they found in this journey was the family grew stronger together. They deepened their relationships. They found deeper personal strength. They saw new possibilities in their life. They had a deeper appreciation for their life. And they had a deep spiritual and existential shift within inside of them of who they became to be as a result of this loss. And so this loss made them stronger. And so Tedeschi was wondering, where else do we see this in our lives? Well, we see it in organized religion. Jesus hanging on the cross, right? Suffering. We see it in Buddhism, right? Embrace the suck with Buddha, right? And what we see is that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Okay, we got told that as kids, right? Any time that we failed was the only time that we failed to get back up, right? So we learned that struggle and struggling hard gives us an opportunity to learn more about ourselves and grow stronger as a result of the experience of that. And so we wondered, where else would you see this post-traumatic growth that Dr. Tedeschi was talking about? And Tedeschi was part of the study for 591 men that were repatriated back to America in a thing called Operation Homecoming back in 1973. And these 591 men were part of the fiery furnace, Ho'oloa, the Hanoi Hilton. So these were men, mostly naval aviators, that had been held in captivity and tortured for anywhere from 2.5 months to 8.5 years. And so I would ask you, Jake, if the post-Vietnam PTSD rate is 30.6%, and if the post-9/11 PTSD rate is 30+% and climbing, what would you assume the PTSD rate to be for 591 men, that many were tortured to death, that the doctors told their families prior to them coming home and being repatriated that they would be imbeciles, they would be infertile, they would not be able to integrate back into society and would probably have to be institutionalized. Many of the wives actually divorced these men before they came home and remarried. And so out of these 591 men, what do you think the PTSD rate would have been for this tragic experience that they had?
Well, you would think it'd be a lot higher than the average because specific circumstance and situation, but I bet it was less. Did you going to tell me?
You're correct. Yes, sir. You're correct. It was vastly incorrect. So what you just said is right on the money. The PTSD rate was 4%.
Wow.
That means that 96% of 591 men returned from captivity and being tortured. and they were stronger for this experience. 17 of that group became general officers. 7 became admirals. Most became leaders in our country. The PTSD rate, the 4%, were of the men that were held the least length of time. The men that were held longer were the most stronger. And today, there's still a place down in Florida called the Mitchell Center where these aviators are still being examined and tracked today. And they're being basically looked at as against their former selves, if you will, of other aviators that were never captured and served during the same time. And what they're finding is an astounding fact. These 591 men are stronger, healthier, happier, and more successful than their counterparts that were never held in captivity. So truly what we saw was an evidence of post-traumatic growth. And so our program that we've developed here is something that we understand in life just to be part of life. And that is, in order to live well, we need to struggle well. Because what we do know about life, Jake, is that it's going to be a series of ups and downs. And we know this. It's like a sine wave in life, right? There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. And this is kind of how it is. And it's just how we're going to live. Okay,
Sure,
if that's
sure.
the case, well, then if I'm going to live well, well, then obviously I need to struggle well, yeah? And if I don't struggle well, then I live outside of that band, that livable band, if you will. So instead of having gentle rolling hills of my sine wave, I'm up here with anxiety, right, and adrenaline, and I'm down here with depression and sadness, right? So if that's the case, what's going on with us as combat veterans? Why is it that there's this huge percentage of us that are struggling in our lives right now and not happy in our lives? And we're struggling with this post-traumatic stress disorder, as they call it, right? What's going on with us? So through our own investigations, we were working with many different doctors. And one of those doctors was a great guy by the name of Dr. Charles Hogue, who wrote a book, Once a Warrior, Always a Warrior. And it pertains to our training. And what we found from this was that it's not what we're coming home to, or coming home from, rather, it's what we're coming home to. Because those of us that have been to combat, those of us that have been trained and had our experiences confirmed, our training experiences confirmed by combat, are forever changed. You're never going to be the same guy. I mean, this is what we're told, right? And this is a fact. But when we come home,
Yeah, once you
we're
drive
different.
that new car off the lot.
Thank you. And no one tells us that we're different and what to do about this difference, right? So if we go back to our training and think about how we're trained, right? I'm trained from here to action. I mean, split-second decisions. I'm in tolerance of mistakes, right? Because if I make a mistake downrange, people die. I come home, I'm intolerant of mistakes of myself, my life, and people around me. When I'm downrange, I disconnect this heart. Because I can't really come to you, Jake, and say, hey, dude, can we go talk about my feelings? Can you imagine?
Eyes up, get on security.
Yeah, exactly. What's catching? Get away from me, right? The Iron Cross, 3 minutes, right? So we never have a chance to truly make peace with our past and what's going on. And so we turn those emotions off because we smell, see, taste, and touch things we know we shouldn't. And there's a moral shift within many of us, right? And so you get trained for adrenaline, right? You really enjoy that adrenaline. I mean, we're always up. We're always going. You know, the first smell, first sound, man, crack of it. Heart beats up, adrenaline's going, everything slows down. We're men of magic, right? We are superhuman. We are trained for that adrenaline. And there's so many different things, and we look at this, and brotherhood is family, right? All others, you know, A company, don't trust A company, Bravo company. We are Bravo company, right? A companies, don't trust those boys. So we only trust ourselves. We live with after-action reviews. We're always second-guessing ourselves. And if you look at how we've been trained, which is confirmed by our experiences, when we come home and we struggle and we're trying to understand the effects of what's happened, and we go in, because if I go in to see a therapist, right, at VA or anywhere, brother, I got to be in a survival mode. Let's be serious. I mean, that's embarrassing to have to say. Hey, I'm a combat veteran. I handled millions of dollars of equipment and men, and now I feel broken inside. There's something going on that I can't understand, right? This voice inside my head won't stop. I can't sleep. I'm overreacting to everything. I see enemy and I see things that I'm not comfortable with. So I'm isolating, I'm self-medicating, I'm staying away from things. My interactions with people that I love aren't going well. I don't understand what's happening. Can you help me? And I sit down with a therapist and they tell me I've been knocked off my baseline and there's an event they want me to talk about. I don't know about you, but as I grow older, I'm really careful about those things that we did and we saw and we experienced. Those things are locked up in a little box inside of me. I've tried to throw that key away so that I don't smell them, taste them, touch them, or deal with them anymore because I got tired of waking up with sweats. I got tired of crawling back in my head. And so those are things that we don't talk about, that we don't think about, that we put away. But a therapist would like us to talk about those. And they want to talk about one event. It's never one event. It's a series of things that leads us to this point to where it dropped us to his knees and we can't go any farther. There's just too much. And I can't go forward, I can't go backwards. I'm just locked up and I don't understand why. And so I literally sit down in front of the therapist. I'm in survival mode. And what we get offered is an opportunity to cope. Number one, you want me to talk it to death. Okay. Currently, VA success rate is 2.2%. Hear me. It's 2.2% because it doesn't do us any good to continue to talk about these things. We need to understand the effects of what's going on. And then if I tell you that I'm not sleeping and I'm not connecting and I'm moody and I'm depressed, well, then you want to offer me 6, 7, 8 medications. And thank you. I mean, you're coming from your heart. You're coming from a good place. You want to help. That's how you're trained. But now you're going to medicate me to mitigate those symptoms. And now you're going to sentence me as a diminished version of myself for the rest of my life. When I was once a, pretty tough guy, I was pretty proud of myself, I was one of America's leaders. Now you're telling me that I'm broken and that I'm going to have to stay medicated now to mitigate these symptoms so that I can cope in my life and get some percentage of normalcy back in my life. What we say about those events is that the trauma offers us an opportunity, that deep internal tension within us, to harness that strength, to understand what's going on within us and grow stronger from that and thrive as a result of our training and our experiences, and not go down the road of symptoms and instead be the guy that we're supposed to be. Because back in 400 odd BCE, Thucydides, one of the very first war historians from the Peloponnesian War, said, one man or woman is much the same as another, and he or she is best who is trained in the severest school. He was referring to combat. 400 BCE, it was recognized that combat leaders and veterans are better for their experience. They're wiser, they're kinder, they're more compassionate,
Sure.
they're natural leaders. And so if we were recognized even back then as natural leaders, what's changed? Nothing's changed.
Sure.
It's understanding who we've become now and being able to harness that training so that we can become stronger for this. And so what we've come to realize in our own journey in the warrior path, this now progressive and alternative training for healing heroes, with a 7-day in-residence program here to get your feet on the path, and then 18-month peer-to-peer program using my path, $3.5 million resource site that we have. We can walk ourselves with another fire team back into the light again, because we can understand that what didn't kill us actually made us stronger, and that we are a culmination of our training and our experiences. But what we need to understand now is that we need to respond to life and not react to life. Because, sir, you've been well trained to react. From here to here, you're a magician. Where we struggle is our thoughts, our feelings, because this thing's been turned off, and our actions now are incongruent. So for us to become congruent, we got to reconnect our heart. So our thoughts, our feelings, and actions can be one. Because currently what happens to us is we're carrying all this stress, all this anxiety that's built up within us. We're not being trained to self-regulate and how to understand what's going on within us. And then generally what happens is we're standing in front of somebody that we love and we're having a talk and we get an action. And because of who we are, we can feel that adrenaline come up. We have this anxiety and stress within us. And all of a sudden that adrenaline hits us. We get loud, we get large, right? We're loud, we're saying what's on our mind because we're in control from here to here. We are masters, right? We are trained. And we got somebody that's like, what just happened to you? Like you're screaming at me, you're what's going on? we're talking about something this big and you just made it that big.
Yeah.
And all
So
of a
real
sudden
quick,
we're ashamed.
on that, I got a question for you. So,
Sorry.
so how do you support guys with their patience? Because I think that's one of the most key things to work on is trying to combat patience as we grow and with post-traumatic growth. What are some keys that you guys
What,
do to help work on patience?
well, what we have to learn to do is understand what's going on with us, because when you say that patience is we're lacking capacity. Because if I'm going around so full of stress and anxiety, right, and not going on understanding what's going on within me, well, then as soon as I get an action, if you will, I don't have the patience. 9 times out of 10, you're talking to me and I'm already forming a response before you stop talking. I'm not even hearing you. So we've lost the ability to listen to learn and learn to listen. We're magic. We're ready to give you an action just like that. I'm ready to fix anything. I'm a master. So you give me an action, I give you a reaction. What I'm lacking right now is the capacity to be able to slow myself down.
Yeah,
Not to
sure.
release that adrenaline, anxiety on you. So we train you in self-regulation practices. In the program, we give you 31 different self-regulation practices so that you can stay in the moment, ways that you can keep your anxiety, right, and your stress at a manageable level, and ways that when you find yourself in a situation where you start to feel that anxiety come up in you and you're going to say something or you're going to do something you know you shouldn't do, then you have the awareness built in from the training and the capacity to breathe.
Sure.
So instead of giving a reaction, I got the time to form a response. So 9 times out of 10, if you know how we are, we get an action, you're right there ready to give answer A. Answer A doesn't really do good for you, right? Doesn't do good for me when I do answer A. The wife's got to look at me like, really? That came out of your mouth? You know, answer B, well, okay, I can be condescending, right? Answer C, maybe it's just yesterday and I don't care. Well, I've got to be able to have that capacity within me to be aware that answer A is not right. And so I got to get my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions congruent again.
Sure.
Because 93% of communication is nonverbal.
Right.
And how many times do we tell people we love that won't happen again, I won't do that again, and yet we do it anyway.
Well, and hey, that's a good point you bring up. Not only 93% is nonverbal statistically, but if you think about in our times of training, just as general humans, how much formal training do we get in nonverbal communication? Not that much. Not that much, but yet so much of it is right. I mean, we live it hasty, but deliberate training for it. You know, organizations, institutions don't really train it that much. So I got a question too about how do you help guys kind of get that light bulb effect when they need to wake up and take ownership of not being reactive to and you mentioned it a little bit, but if you can go a little bit deeper, to not be such a problem solver when something comes up that they want to fix, but how do they actually get creative with conscious thought to actually absorb it and then have a flow for reaction and not like a smash reaction?
Yes, and what you just said is beautiful, because we are trained to react, and that's part of our training. That's confirmed by who we are.
Sure.
And now we have to be retrained, which is what we're good at. We're good at being retrained. That's who we are, right? You know, we come in the military with a lot of unprocessed childhood experiences and traumas. Army and all services put a knife edge on that, takes that and makes great soldiers out of us. We get really, really well trained. And so to be able to integrate back into society, realizing that 0.45 of 1% of this population is you, and that 99.55% are not you. And this is who we're going to have to work with. And so we have to find ways so that we can respond to life, because right now we're trained to react to life. And so that's the difference in struggling well and struggling poorly. So if I'm struggling poorly and someone gives me an action and then I have a reaction, 9 times out of 10, my adrenaline is up and that anxiety is coming out.
Sure.
And then many times at the same time, you're looking at somebody and you can see the hurt in their face. Now you feel bad, right? So then there's the bottom of that sine wave. Now, even though I'm raging at someone, I'm ashamed of what I'm doing. I can see the hurt in their face.
Sure.
And what do we normally do? We have integrity. So what do? We go away and we self-medicate, and then we isolate. And many of us try to go back and re-engage, and that doesn't always go well once we begin to self-medicate. So what if I was able to propose to you the opposite of that? What if I was able to say to you that we could train ourselves back again to where I have the capacity, the awareness, right, and the gift of grace to to where I don't have to react. I can have the capacity to respond. So instead of reacting right away, I can just take a breath.
Right.
I can
Right.
hold for 4, take in for 4, hold it for 7, maybe let it out by 8. I can breathe, and I can continue to listen to learn. I continue to learn to listen. So I don't have that reaction. And then I can form a response. As Viktor Frankl says, there is a space between between stimuli and response. And in that response, right, is the choice, right, of that response and how we respond. And in that response lies our power and our growth, right? So it's our response, not our reaction. So if I give a good response, well, then I judge myself well, right? I just did well with my wife. I had a good response to that. Instead of self-medicating, I was able to self-regulate. Instead of isolating, I was able to deepen that connection. So the opposite of reacting is to have the ability to respond. But I'm not going to have that ability to respond if I'm so full of stress and anxiety, right? And I lean into my training from the military of who I am, and I am ready to react straight away to that. It's not what we need. We actually need to deepen that connection by slowing things down so that I can listen. So if I listen, I can form a response to that person, and that response generally can make it to my heart, right? So that my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions can become congruent. Because many times in our relationships, we've married someone that is usually above our pay grade, because if they stick with us, they got to be above our pay grade. And we got to be really
Yep.
lucky to have them.
Yep. Yeah.
And many times we don't treat them the way that we should. And we say things to them that we wish we didn't. And we hurt them with the way that we speak. And
Sure.
a lot of that's just the lack of awareness in us and that lack of ability, right, to have that capacity to be able to respond. And so what we need to be able to have is, always say, 3 to 5 mentors. So if I'm going to go into an action, I'm going to have a heavy discussion with somebody, either someone I love or professionally, I want to have 3 to 5 people that I can reach out to, that I can call and say, hey, sir, when you went through this kind of thing in your life, what did you do? And they're going to say, well, here's what I did. Okay, then I'm going to call Jake. Hey, Jake, what did you do in this experience? Jake's going to tell me what he did. By the time I get to the third one of my mentors, generally what Dusty was thinking was probably not the right thing. But I got to listen to 3 to 5 guys
Yeah,
that I
like
trust.
Dusty, go do 50 burpees. All right. You're going to be okay.
There you go. Exactly. But this is what I need to hear, right? You even need to have that conversation, right? So if I can have 3 to 5 good mentors in my life, that's going to help me a lot to understand who I am around the people that I admire most and respect, right?
Sure.
And then to have good ways to self-regulate, right? I meditate twice a day for 20 minutes, once in the morning and once in the afternoon before I go home. I make sure that I balance my wellness triangle, because what I do know about life is I have to be disciplined even at my age. So I have to do things to balance my mind,
Sure.
right? So
Yeah. Real quick
right.
on that, on discipline, Dusty, that's a good key point you brought up. I think that's one element that is so important, where I feel like you have to kind of crave discipline and just work on it you have to work on it and work on it until you crave it as something that you have to live with daily, because discipline is literally what puts us in check for ourselves. But it's hard when you don't have to have it, it's hard naturally to want to crave it, because it's like kind of like the whole world we live in. Like, let's just chill, like let's hang out. Let's relax. And sometimes what you need the most of is that discipline to put yourself on that structured path that you guys talk about and you guys represent.
Well, look, how do we make it in life in the military, right? We were
Discipline.
trained.
Yeah.
We set goals. We had a training calendar that we lived by, right? So we live by a wellness triangle, right? Mind, body, financial responsibility. Those are the 3 points of the triangle. And then the inside of that triangle is our spirit, right? So I do know that if I can balance my mind, if I can find a way to where I can release my stress and anxiety, I can stay in the moment so that I am present. I'm here with you now. I'm living
Sure.
moment to moment, right? I have appreciation and gratitude for being here right now, right? I'm reading, I'm expanding my mind. I can deepen connections. I have patience for people, right? Physically, I got to get out and balance my toxins. I got to get out and balance my body. I got to be disciplined. We know this. Move the body, balance the toxins, eat well, to struggle well, right? Mind, body, and then financial responsibility. Because if I'm not balancing my finances, come on, man. So I got to pay my bills. I got to pay myself so that I have money to retire on and money for emergencies. And then I need to live on a budget. That's just life. Okay. But if I can manage to balance the mind, the body, my financial responsibility, that's how I live.
Sure.
Right. That offers me the opportunity to look within that triangle and look within here.
Yeah.
And I get to ask myself questions in life that we all need to ask ourselves. Who am I?
Right. Yeah.
Why
That
am I
purpose.
here?
That purpose. Yeah.
What's my purpose, right? And how do I wish to be remembered in life, right? I don't want to be remembered as an angry veteran. I
Sure.
don't want to be remembered as somebody who cannot connect well with others. I want to be remembered for the man that I have become, a defender of freedom, a patriot, a man who cares about his fellow man and cares about his community and wants to deepen the relationships in his family and be remembered as a man that was full of love
Yeah.
and compassion and empathy and got things done. I
Well,
want to
that, yeah.
know
Now
that
you're
I have
talking
a
about,
PhD.
yeah. Now you're going right into the legacy
Getting
part already, which is good because that's important. Is the perspective of how do I want to be remembered and thought of, and if we don't have that deliberate thought about that, then it sometimes limits our impact that we're going to make on this world and what we've already have made. Because I have a question that I want to ask, and I think the audience might like where this might go. But could you share maybe a personal story? You don't have to talk about the specific individual if you can remember, because you've been around so many veterans, so many warriors. But can you share a story of someone where it was hard for them to accept themselves and what they've been through and what they've done? Because I think that might be something that a lot of guys have issues with, just accepting what's already happened and now getting back on a path for being the person they want to be.
And what I'd say to all of us is this. Look, guys, we can't change what happened. We can't change what we experienced. We can't change those that are lost or the lives that we took. We cannot change those experiences. We can't change how that shifted things inside of us. But what we can do is we can understand that those things don't define us and that we don't have to be a product of those experiences, that we can actually rise above those experiences and we can be better humans because of those experiences. Because we saw the fragility of life. We saw things that we shouldn't have seen. We questioned our own morality. There's some moral injury there. There's people that we've lost now, and we need to live stronger and rise above these things. We need to become beacons of light because we are stronger. We are better for what happened to us, not worse. And so, yes, we raise our right hand. We've joined the long legacy of warriors that have come before us for hundreds of years. We are the freedom fighters. We are the defenders. We are patriots. Now that we've done these things, we have to transition our lives back here. We have to shine in our communities, not be known as dysfunctional veterans, not be known as self-medicated for your protection. What we really need to do is to make peace with our past so that we can live in the present and we can plan for the bright future, because we are our nation's leaders. We are the ones that our nation is going to lean to lead this nation. Right now, our community is confused. Right now, there are no leadership. Right now, many of us turn inward and we don't stand shoulder to shoulder. And so what we all need to understand is we raised our right hand to do these things, and that we are only 0.45 of 1%. We are the greatest amongst us, and that we have the strength because we've learned a greater appreciation for life. We understand what new possibilities look like. I still walk into a bathroom and look at a toilet and go, I'm so amazed that I got you there. I get to sit with you and be with you. So the simple pleasures of life. We also understand the fragility of life. And so many of us struggle with these things, and we blame ourselves for these things. And it's almost like we get caught in our past, right? And so many of us, come through this program, and I just don't understand it, because we are true Ferraris in life, right? God has graced us to be the top beings on this planet. We're so complicated, and we can literally do anything. We amaze ourselves. And yet, for some reason, being these Ferraris of life going down the road of life, us as combat veterans, we stare at the rearview mirror, and that's our past. And for some reason, we can't get out of the past. The past is for reflection. It's not for residence.
Yes.
It's just to make us understand what didn't kill us, made us stronger, and what did we learn from those lessons. And then if we can get out of the reflection for past and understand that life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards, well then we got that big 4x8, cloud windshield there that we keep thinking is our future, and we keep going, it's got to get better, it's got to get better, it's got to get better. Well, you're missing the ride of your life. You're a Ferrari, and time stands still for no man. And so now what I challenge all of us to do, what I've tried to do every day in my life going forward now, is make a difference. Be of purpose, because that's where we are our greatest selves, is when we are of purpose. And that's a purpose, if nothing else, but to each other and to lean into other combat veterans, because we need to check on ourselves. We need to help one another. I know that from my own journey, when I was in Australia 15 years, I had no one to talk to. I would have loved to have been able to pick up the phone and reconnect with someone and say, hey, Jake, this is what's going on inside of me. Why am I being such an idiot? Why am I treating people around me so badly? Why do I hate myself? Why am I numb? Why do I feel this way? Why can't I feel? Why can't I connect? Why am I angry all the time? What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, no one could answer these things for me. Now we have a training program that answers these questions, because this is how we were trained, confirmed by our combat experiences. And now we need to understand how to retrain ourselves so that we can self-regulate, so we can stop reacting to life and start responding to life and plan for a great future.
Sure.
Because you are the best amongst us, and we need each other.
Yeah. Well, I want to add to that too, because I think one of the biggest parts too is finding that mission outside of the military mission. Because for me, I was a one pump chump. I got extended with another unit, and I felt like I had one combat deployment, but it felt like two, because I was extended with another unit. And it was basically like getting sold to a new family. It was really interesting, because we were the sappers, we were the breachers and the engineers for the infantry battalions attached at the H&S level. And, for me, there's so much more I wish I would have done, because I wanted to lat move and go into counterintelligence and do all this stuff. And then I kind of just gave up on believing in myself, because I didn't think I would get that clearance. I had people telling me, oh, you might, that clearance is hard to get. It's going to take a while, this and that. And I just gave up. But, I did later got into government contracting work, and actually went through two of the train the trainers of Ken's program, JTAC. And that was in 2010 to 2012. I remember one of the IED videos they used was from, or the shrapnel videos they used was from our battalion, actually our company, recording a controlled det that EOD did during the Battle of Fallujah. And I tried to bring it up to the instructors, and I was like, that was EOD's fault, guys. They came and told us we were clear. We were recording it, and you can see our vehicles lined up on this wall. They destroyed our vehicle that three of our guys were in, almost killed him. A huge piece of rebar hit the hood and ripped the entire engine block off. Anyway, just random thought you can tell Ken about. But, going through these trainings later as a civilian combat skills instructor made me realize I found my purpose in getting back to preparing the warfighter for their deployments, because that's what I did for 6 years as a civilian combat skills instructor for active duty unit. And when I left that, now I work with a school division, and I get to teach basically crisis readiness skills for staff and students. And I found my purpose again, because I found that I was helping people with skills that I learned that I am passionate about. If someone ever gets exposed to a situation like this, that I fueled them in some way of something that I experienced, that my energy can now be embedded into them to respond, to thrive, instead of just trying to survive. And I think that's important, is for us finding our purpose and finding our mission again. And a lot of guys, I feel like if they can't find it, or they're having struggles finding it, another thing I do, I volunteer a lot. I volunteer with so many different nonprofits, And I do it because it's literally like the most serving thing that I get to do nowadays as a, 30 plus year old, father, husband, out of uniform now. I get to volunteer, and I don't want to get paid for what I'm doing. I'm giving back. I'm serving again with that servant heart. So anyway, the volunteer stuff. Do you guys find anybody really does well that comes through your program with volunteering, either before or afterwards? Or do you guys support that at all? Or what do you think about volunteering yourself?
Look, everyone that comes through our program, when they set a goal, 9 times out of 10, the goal is I want to be a good husband.
Yeah.
Right? I want to be a good father, right? I want to be a good brother. I want to be a good member of my community, right? And so a lot of us have a loss of sense of purpose. Like, who am I? What do I want to do, right? Because our purpose was so noble and so great. We want to go back to being that again. So the first thing is, and I say this all the time, get a healthy you. Manage the mind, the body, the financial responsibility so that you can do these things. So when you're healthy, your wife's happy, your children are happy because you're happy.
Yeah.
So number one, take care of you.
Yeah.
Number two, when you're happy and you're healthy and you're connected to your family, you got a happy, healthy family, right? Your family unit is strong because you're leading them from the front, and you're leading them by walking beside them and helping them through their lives. You're standing behind them and encouraging them to grow. You're surrounding them in your love, and they know that you're the leader of the family unit because you're looking after you, and then you're looking after them. Get those two things done.
Man,
and
I love that.
Get out. Demonstrate to your family that you are a man of service. Volunteering is the most noblest thing that you can possibly do, to go give your time that you don't have to others, in spite of anything else that you could be doing, and giving away your most precious commodity. And that's time for other people. I don't care what you're doing. It's fantastic to be able to go do it. And if you find certain organizations that other veterans go to, you have an opportunity to connect with a fellow veteran, right? And connect with other people like us. I can remember when I came back from Australia, and I'd met a lady, and she took me to an event, and I'm the guy with the beard, down on my chest and hair down my back. And, I'm, about 240 pounds, and I'm like this, and I'm in a tuxedo, and I'm standing there with a drink in my hand, and she's out there, seeing everybody. And it looks like there's this 30-meter, circle around me that's cleared, obviously. And she walks up and said, "Oh, it looks like you're making friends. What's going on?" And some guy walks by and goes, "Hi." And I go away. She's like, "Oh, that's friendly." And I go, "Yeah, I don't see anybody here I like. Why? They're all civilians. I don't like them. What do they got to do with me?" And then at that same time, I look across the room, and I see another guy standing there in the same cleared space. I was like, "Excuse me." I walk over, see the same look in his eyes. I'm like, "Hey, guy, where'd you serve?" "Oh, my brother. Thank you." Right? We connect with each other because of our shared experiences, because of who we are. We are truly greater than ourselves now. We need to lean into that. We need to understand who we are and gain pride in ourselves again, and be that proud combat veteran who leads themselves, leads their families, and demonstrate to their communities what leadership looks like. So volunteer, get out there, get amongst it. But the first person is make yourself healthy, because when we're hurt people hurt people. So when you're still bleeding and hurt inside, you go out and do these things, you bleed on other people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We need to take care of ourselves, and we need to lean into others, mentors that can help us grow and be stronger. So, all it is for us is a training to understand that it's not what we came home from. It's actually what we came home to. Just people not having an understanding of who we've become and how we've changed, and us lacking that same understanding of who we've become and how we've changed. So it just needs to be a retraining process again, okay? That guy who I am, that combat veteran, that guy who sees threat, that guy who can react to anything, that's for emergency break glass, right? He's always there. "Brother, I'm with you. Something happens, I got your six. You don't got to worry." That man within, he's always ready to come out and play games and get amongst it. He's ready to go no matter what. But that guy needs to stay in the background now. The man that needs to be here is a man that is connected to himself. A man that has a great appreciation for something than himself. A guy who has a deeper understanding of love and life, right, and character and hope, right, and can lead his family. This is who we need to become. And so I encourage all of you out there that are struggling in your lives. All of us deserve this chance to come through a program like the PATH program, to where you can take 7 days with 7 other guys just like you, form a new fire team, right? Get an education on what's going on in here, what's going on in here. How have I changed? What do I need to do to manage this monster inside of me, this beautiful man, this beautiful warrior, right? Because we're all warriors now for the rest of our lives. Warriors are protectors, right? Warriors serve a cause greater than themselves, and warriors are never victims or a product of their environment. So I need to be retrained now. I need to understand who I am. So get an education. Give me ways to self-regulate so that I can let go of the stress. I can let go of all this anxiety that I carry within me, and I can balance my nervous system so that I can stay in the moment. I can get out of my head and I can be present with you, right? Offer me ways to disclose with 7 other people that's like me, because all of us have a powerful story. We need to let it out. We need to let go of it.
So Dusty, real quick, I love what you said about the leadership part, because this is why the pill is important. And my last guest mentioned it when we were done recording. He's like, it was so cool because the pill just organically came out during our conversation, recording the episode. And you brought up the leadership part, which is so important. So my company I started called Lead Tactics. I got some shirts, and this is what I put on the back. I don't know if you can read that, if it's backwards or not. So basically on the back, it says the initiative and an action for lead, and then for tactics, the means to accomplish growth.
Yes.
And so another thing that means to me is, I was listening to a guy the other day talking about how self-investment is so important. So it made me think, so the next shirts I'm putting out will say Lead Tactics on it. It'll say 51% self-investment. And then it'll say plus 49% team investment equals 100% maximum output. We have to invest in ourselves a little bit more. It's almost like a business venture, a little bit more than the others, because we have to show up for ourselves first before we can even influence and impact anybody else.
Totally agree, my brother. Absolutely, totally agree. We just need to fall back into that discipline like we were trained in the military, right?
Yeah.
I have a mantra. I get up at 05 every day, right? 05, come alive. I throw a sheet out on the floor. My wife and I do 8 yoga poses so I can stretch and stay flexible. I hop back up in bed. I meditate for 20 minutes. I give her a good cuddle, thank her, and have gratitude for her being in my life. I get into the gym for an hour, and I go and start my day. I work hard all day knowing that stress and anxiety will build up. And then before I go home, I meditate for 20 minutes. I wash away the day, and I walk in with less stress, less anxiety, connected to myself, and I have a win for the day.
Sure.
What's important now? So I try to find something during the day that I go, wow, that was my win for the day, right? That made me happy. I accomplished something that was greater than myself, right? So live with gratitude, right? Live with a win. And then what you said is so important. Attitude and effort, right? You can never take away those 2 things from me. I may wake up and my injuries, right, may bother me. I may be upset because I can't find all the batteries for my hearing aids and all the things that I have to be able to do, right? So, but that's the effort. So if I'm only going to show up with 40% effort today, you can't take away 100% attitude that goes along with that.
Right.
So I own my own attitude and I own my own effort. Viktor Frankl's got a great quote. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's own attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And this is what we have in life. We get to choose our attitude. We get to select the effort we put into it, and we get to choose our own way. And so I challenge all of our fellow combat veterans out there. Come on, guys. Let's lean into ourselves and lean into one another. Let's get right. Yeah. Let's get uncomfortable and let's win the day. And that we get that from Coach Greg Morin, a very successful NASCAR pit crew coach that always says, get uncomfortable, get right, win the day. So we have to put the effort into ourselves, be disciplined, get your PT in, work on the mind, work on the body, balance your finances, and ask yourself, who am I? How can I be better? How can I leave this world in a better place?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That's beautiful, Dusty. And, I can't say enough how PT, I had a really bad Achilles injury for a while, for like 2 years, and I couldn't run like I wanted to. But now that I'm good to go and I can run again, and I do a lot of burpees, do a lot of pull-ups, do a lot of, just different stuff, a lot of stretching. And I can't say enough how that physical exercise is the balance sometimes that the mind needs.
Totally agree, my brother. We got to find a way to self-regulate. I like to meditate. I like to breathe, right? I find myself being bailed up in something where I know that my answer is getting ready to be a bad answer to somebody.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
Dr. Will's technique, I'll breathe it in for 4, hold it, right? And I'll give that tactical pause and know, okay, if I say this, it's not going well. Hold that bad boy, breathe it out, maybe do a couple of those, engage my feelings, really listen to what's going on. And maybe I didn't even need to speak.
Yeah.
Maybe all I really did was just listen. And so all of us need to find ways to regulate. So I'm hoping all my fellow brothers and sisters out there got a good hobby, got ways that they can get out of here and get into here so they can connect mind-body coordination. They can wipe away that stress and anxiety, and they can find that deep down drive within themselves to become greater than themselves.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, and real quick, if you could just cover, you told me a little bit about before how Boulder Crest is you're so stretched now that you now got other organizations helping out your programs. I think you talked to me about all these different states where they're going to be doing your PATH program. Can you talk a little bit about the impact of that and kind of where that's going for the next growth project for you all as an organization?
Sure. Well, Jake, once we got this program developed, right, it became very successful. And we never advertised the program. It was literally word of mouth. You would come through and say, man, I got 4 or 5 of my brothers that need this program. Where are you from? And so all of a sudden, this became a program that took a year to get into. And we're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We're running a $1.8 million budget already. Well, we doubled our capacity. One of our donors gave us $10 million, and we opened a facility, a bricks and mortar in Arizona. We got a 130-acre facility there, doubling capacity so we could teach, twice as many of our classes. Well, no sooner than we opened it, got a program team trained up, boom, we became a program it took a year to get into. And so we became a program that everybody wanted. We just couldn't get it out there because we're not going to teach it to 21, 25 people at a time. This is an experience for only no less than 6 and no more than 8, a good, strong fire team. They get to know one another again, lean into one another, set goals with one another, and grow for 18 months together because that's what it takes. It takes us a good year and a half to retrain ourselves and to become the men and women that we deserve to be. And so we got this program, we got an 18-month follow-up program, instructor guide, we've got it studied. We're 57 to 87% off of the 5 domain success rate. That's incredible. What do we do? Well, we decided to scale ourselves. And so we've been raising money for the last year or so, and that fund will officially kick off, I think, in the next few weeks, I hope, and we can announce it to the public. But we've been raising money to scale our own growth. So we've been working with other foundations that are established that want this program and want to teach this program and share the growth of post-traumatic growth and the Warrior Path program. So we've created a learning management system. So all the program teams come through our programs here in either Virginia and Arizona, and then they go on the learning management system. Then we train them over a period of time to be able to teach the program independently. And we've been able to do that successfully. So currently the Warrior Path is being offered every month in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, Maine, Arizona. We have a mobile training team that goes around the country and teaches them different opportunities. Next year, we're going to be offering it in Arkansas, Washington State, and then in 2022 in Southern California, if not sooner, with a goal that we'll be able to offer 10 of these programs every month around the program so that at least 80 of us can have the Warrior Path experience so that we can then begin to grow ourselves and return back to health and live in the light of growth and setting goals and being members of not only our families again, but members of our community.
Sure.
So that offers us about 1,000 veterans a year to be trained in the Warrior Path program. So, our job is to scale this. And then at the same time, recently the president signed a bill that included post-traumatic growth and an opportunity for that to be studied. So over the next couple of years, now that it's been approved as a modality to be studied, and we have the language now for Congress, we're hoping to get that study done so that then VA can adopt post-traumatic growth as a modality. And then by the time they offer that, and they can say it's approved for veterans to go and attend and use their insurance to be able to attend it, well, then we'll have 10 facilities and growing that we can teach this around the country.
Wow, that's incredible. So let's say I'm a veteran and I'm interested in going through the program as an individual. Where can they find you guys?
You just go to bouldercrest.org. So Boulder like a big rock, Crest like the toothpaste.org. There'll be a place there on our webpage that says programs. Go to the Warrior Path, fill out the application. We use Applicant Pro, so it kind of looks like a job application, but we've adjusted it to where it's very, very efficient, so we can put notes in it. We can track things with each other so that there's a very timely response. But fill out that application. One of our path guides from around the country will contact you. We'll probably do a Zoom call, make sure you're qualified for the program, and then we'll slot you to get you in the program as quickly as we possibly can.
Wow, that's great. And I'll make sure I put that on our show notes and things like that. And I had one of my team leaders from Battle Fallujah went through your program, and he actually went through with another guy from our battalion that they didn't know each other, but they went through together. And it was just really interesting how they stayed connected, and they're still very connected. And I mean, they both have amazing things to say about your program. So one last thing.
The program is interesting, Jake. Well, I'm sorry. The program is interesting in that when you arrive here, you're not going to get a schedule, right? We want you to be in the moment, right? We're going to ask you to keep your phones up in the cabins so that you can stay connected to each other.
Yeah.
So this is truly like military training. You're going to get your instructions from the chalkboard. We're going to start working at 6:30 in the morning with PT. We'll finish up in the evenings around the fire. It's going to be very purposeful, and you're going to sleep like a log because we're going to work you 12 to 14 hours a day for 7 straight days, and then connect you with the team. And you're going to feel like you're back in it again with a squad, and you're going to be setting goals every 30 days and accomplishing goals. That's what successful people do: is set goals, accomplish goals, and become successful in their life.
Yeah,
that's what the Warrior Path's about.
I love it. So, all right, now shifting to, if someone wants to volunteer and try to be one of your cadre instructors, where can they find that, or what is available for that?
So there's positions that open in different program teams all around the country, and we generally advertise. If you go to our program site, you'll see us. If you go down to our program teams, if there's a slot, you'll see that there's an open slot, and we're taking applications, and that's for all the different foundations around the country. We also have volunteer opportunities. We're a very small staff. I only have a 5-man program team plus my old tired self, which is a 6-man program team. And then I have a 4-man operations team, or 4-person operations team. And then obviously we have the Institute for Post-Traumatic Growth. So we're a very small team to operate 37.5 acres. And so volunteers are core to our life. We regularly log 8,000 to 10,000 volunteer hours every single year. So we need volunteers in the program to help us in the kitchen, to help serve food, to help move things around. We need help on the property, be able to maintain this gorgeous 37.5 acres, and the same thing out in Arizona. So you want to find out who we are and what we're about? Come out, volunteer with us, be with us, experience the Warrior Path and Boulder Crest Foundation.
That's great. You know, Dusty, I do, like I said, I do a lot of volunteer work. And one thing I don't want to do is start my own nonprofit, because there's so many out there doing great things that I want to be like the common denominator conduit link to all these different nonprofits to help veterans find maybe the right program for them to volunteer with. So that's another big part of my company, Lead Tactics, is the volunteer side. Like the reunions. That's another big thing I volunteer with, because that's its own therapy in an informal way. And reunions are incredible. So also too, we talked about my buddy Brad Thomas, who was one of my first guests on my podcast. He has the band Silence and Light with Jason Everman, the Green Beret. Then Josh Goodwin is their producer, who's a Grammy Award-winning producer. He's actually a Marine as well. And then they have another Marine and also an Air Force veteran on their team. And I talked to him about maybe coming out and doing something at your location to play a show or something once things kind of get back to a little bit of normalcy. Those guys are incredible, and all their proceeds and their royalties, they donate to charitable organizations that support veterans, law enforcement, and even medical personnel like doctors, nurses, and such. So I want to help connect you guys. So we will add all that stuff in our show notes, but I appreciate we covered the pill without really going through them all. And this is incredible. Your information, and you can just tell you have so much stored away in that brain housing group that you're ready to fire off at any time. So I appreciate it. Ken found a great person to help run this program. And I can only imagine that 5 years ago, you could never even believe where you all have made it to now.
I totally agree. And, Jake, like you and like all of us that work together, we grow. I'm not the same man that I was 5 years ago.
Sure.
I've had an opportunity to reconnect with myself and reconnect with so many brothers and sisters that do this. This is what I would encourage all of us, right? Don't isolate. Reach out, talk to one another, be with one another. We're all in a struggle, right? And we all can do this together. We just need to lean into one another so we can get this done together. We are our greatest asset. Our lives are the greatest power on this planet, and they're valuable. Don't be lost in this journey. Connect with us.
Yep.
Let's do this together.
Yeah, I love to say, change is constant. Growth is your choice.
Yes, sir.
So,
thank you, Jake.
Hey, Dusty, I appreciate it. We're gonna kick off here. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, great holiday, and thanks for what you all are doing. These guys and gals out there, these warriors, they need something like this, and your structure helps give them some great direction. So, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Semper Fidelis.
Thank you, my brother. Be well. Happy Turkey Day.